Hi, this is Reverend Paul Jakes, welcoming you to another program dealing with community issues and welcoming you to Love in Action. I'm Pastor Paul Jakes of the New Tabernacle of Faith Baptist Church, and I'm so glad that you're with us today. Today we have a very special program that is going to provide information and education to the masses. Today we are dealing with the subject of caregiving and loving while living with dementia, a subject that is very important. As you know, many African Americans are going through much these days. There's a lot of poverty in our community. There's a lot of stress. People are losing their homes, and seniors are wondering what to do. Well, this particular show is not only going to just help seniors, but it's going to help the whole family, help the whole community, and help the church. The African American church has a responsibility to help as many people as possible. And I'm so glad for this panel that we have. We're going to introduce the panel, and as they hear their name, they'll tell us a little bit more about who they are and what they're about. The first person that I would like to introduce, and by the way, we have a TV audience today, and so we're glad to have them, and we'll have them applaud later on, and they'll be asking some questions in this session. Today we're very glad to have Dr. Reverend Epps, who is someone that my brother introduced me to. She's all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, and we welcome you to Chicago. Would you like to just share a little bit, Dr. Epps, who you are and what you're connected with?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I am an assistant professor at Georgia State University, and my program of research, I do research with family caregivers and persons living with dementia, and the whole goal is to promote quality of life through meaningful engagement and self-care for these families. I have 2 research projects, and we'll be talking about it later on today. One for Telesavvy for caregivers, an online education project, and then also another project with churches trying to transform the culture of African American congregations to make them more dementia friendly, so we can re-engage families living with dementia back into worship and to religious activities. So
wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Epps. Give her a big hand. Our next guest is Karen Graham. Karen is from Chicago, yes. And her daughter is going to school in Atlanta.
She graduated last year.
Just graduated. All right, well, we're praying for her. Karen, tell us what institutions you're connected with.
So my name is Karen Graham. I'm the manager of community relations at the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center. I'm also a doctoral student at Rush's College of Nursing. I'm in the PhD in Nursing Research Program. And additionally, I'm a family caregiver of someone with Alzheimer's disease. Both my mother and father-in-law were diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And although Alzheimer's killed my mother-in-law quickly, my father-in-law has been living with it for over 10 years now.
Thank you. Let's welcome Karen. The next guest is Melvin Thompson. He's quite a thinker and one who has provided a lot of information with his church. Melvin, tell us who you are.
Hi, Pastor Jakes. Thanks for having me. My name is Melvin Thompson. I'm the executive director of an organization called the Andaleo Institute. Andaleo is a Swahili word for progress, growth, and development. We are the nonprofit arm of Trinity United Church of Christ, located on the far south side in Chicago. As an organization, we focus in health, education, and community development. And in our health space, we've been working with dementia and the community and 6 other black churches in our area around dementia. And I too am a caregiver. My dad passed away last year from Lewy body dementia, which we'll talk about a little later. And my mom has early onset, so it's very personal to me. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Melvin. Thank you so much. And This person that I am bringing to you was instrumental in helping me and my brother while Mama was in her transition. Jackie Thornton, welcome to Chicago.
It's a pleasure.
All
It's a
right,
pleasure.
great.
So yeah, my background is in public health for years, and then I made that big leap over into gerontology. And so I work with an organization called Leading Age, and we are the Georgia chapter. You have an Illinois Leading Age, and I've been there 18 years. And in that space, there are gaps that we've noticed that are not a part of the continuum as we see it. And so we created Sage Navigator. I'm the board chair of sagenavigator.org, which is affiliate in our communities trying to help individuals link to the services that they need and create a care partner, intentional care partner system. And so I'm really happy to be working with Dr. Epps with the Faith Village. And actually, dementia is just one piece of the work that we're going to start. So this is an exciting time.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you. The first question that I'd like to present to you is, what is dementia? And is Dr. Epps, dementia the same thing as Alzheimer's?
So dementia is not the same thing as Alzheimer's disease. So dementia, I like to explain, it's like a big umbrella term. So it's like when you have thinking disorders or social symptoms that disrupt your daily function. So it's just a big umbrella. And there's several type of disorders that can cause dementia, and Alzheimer's disease is one of the many. Some literature said there's 70 plus. I've seen the UK put out there's 100 plus different things, and they can, most of the conditions are irreversible. There are a few things that's reversible that would show signs of dementia. Anyone you want to add anything, Karen, to that?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly what we would also say. It's just, it's not a disease. I think that's one of the big things. Dementia is not a disease. It's a group of symptoms, and there's lots of things that can cause it.
Okay, such as?
So Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia in senior citizens, although we have people as young as 29 who've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Lewy body disease, dementia, Parkinson's disease, AIDS, lots of different things can cause dementia.
And vascular
Vascular
dementia is really key in the Black community.
Yes.
Karen, what are the signs of dementia with especially family members, and how can they be able to recognize it?
So the Alzheimer's Association lists 10 different signs, but the things that most people can come to our memory clinic is short-term memory loss. So people remember things that happened 30, 40 years ago, but can't remember things that happened like a half an hour ago, just a few minutes ago. They're constantly repeating themselves. They may be losing things over and over and over. I always do lots of different presentations, and people say, oh, I forgot my keys. Does that mean I have Alzheimer's? So no, most of the time, the memory loss has to be so severe that it interferes with your day-to-day activities.
And that's the key. It has to disrupt your daily life or interfere with your day-to-day activities. So I forget my keys all the time.
Right.
But give me about 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna retrace. I'm able to retrace my steps. Just like I lost my wallet yesterday.
Yeah.
And I just lost it, but I was able to retrace my steps and find out where I left it at.
Melvin, is one's vision affected also by having Alzheimer's?
I'll speak from personal experience, and I remember my dad having hallucinatory, is that the word? Hallucinations and seeing things that we didn't see, and until we had that diagnosed, that we find out that was a form of dementia, the Lewy body dementia that I actually referred to. I was just thinking, sitting here, that this is typical for me to be the only African American male at one of these panel discussions, and that's one of the issues that are going on in our community, that we don't have enough African American
Yes.
men that are speaking about what they're going through, and that's typical for us. We don't talk about a lot of things that we just do them, and so I would encourage the men that are in the audience to be more vocal about these things that are going on, because we're typically diagnosed late with this disease, and by that time there's not a whole lot of that can be done at that particular point.
And who's we? You said we. Is it, you mean like?
I'm sorry.
When you say we are typically, you mean the black or?
African American.
Yes.
Absolutely, African American.
Good.
No
Since
question
we're-
about it.
we-
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
Since
for
we're on
clarifying.
that subject, Jackie Thornton, African Americans seem to be affected by this. It seems that there's a great number. Can you give us any statistical data of, is this particular ailment happening in a big way in the African American community in comparisons to other groups, white groups, and et cetera?
So, and Dr. Epps will definitely chime in on this too. I think that what's typical in our experience is that we either have mixed dementia, and vascular dementia is kind of that culprit. So, and she'll talk about, if you're having symptoms of diabetes, or you've been diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, and so you're not getting proper oxygen to your limbs, your lower limbs, you're not getting proper oxygen to your brain, right? So when you have that cut off, then the deterioration can happen in the brain because it's not getting the oxygen that it needs in the blood flow.
Okay.
Some of the things that we look at is that Alzheimer's is a long, typically exists for a long period of time. Because of stigma, we don't come out and talk about the memory loss. And if you have a care partner, or if you have a adult child that lives with you, or you have a spouse that lives with you, we cover for each other.
Yes.
And oftentimes we fill in the blanks for one another. And we shouldn't be filling in the blanks to the detriment of that person not getting diagnosed earlier, when medications are really significantly show improvements of slowing the experience. So,
Okay.
Dr.
All right.
Epps.
So, and I know Dr. Epps, I had already kind of thrown that question at her, but I figured I'd throw it to you.
But you want the pure numbers.
Yeah. But you brought out a good point before I get to Dr. Epps. African Americans, sometimes we will try to hide it.
Yes.
And because we hide it, it becomes worse as a result. And it's almost like I don't want to get therapy because I'll be stigmatized with this particular thing. On Sunday, I had one of our ministers to stand up, and it was a bold statement that she did. She said, "I have this problem."
Wow.
And she said, "And I need y'all to pray for me." And I told her, I said, "I'm so glad that you stood up and said that." And I said, "Did you know that your pastor's having a panel discussion this week?" And she said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Please be here." And she actually came. I'm not going to say who she is.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's the
I'm just
beauty,
glad.
because this is what we have to do in order to overcome, in order to get the services that we need, in order to get treatment, to be a part of research. And I know that there is some negativity in our community about the things that were done unethically, in terms of research and experimentation and things of that nature. But we're in a new day, and we have people that look like us, that care about us, that are here to support us. So we've got to be able to overcome. And I kind of, when I think of it, there was a time when you said AIDS, HIV/AIDS, and if you were near the person, people would take a stage left and right?
Oh, yeah.
That now we embrace people because we understand, we know better, so we do better.
Yes.
We're going to overcome this in this Alzheimer's dementia arena too, but the first step is the things that you're doing, that's empowering people to say what is and to be a part of helping, because those are the people that can influence our journey and help us to learn. I mean, they're the ones that should be, we hope to see in the future at these tables, telling their own story about how you can overcome, truly.
And live
Dr.
full.
Epps, let's deal with some statistics.
So circling back to statistics for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, for the African American community, Alzheimer's Association has put out there we're twice more likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia, and that's really big. And Hispanics are 1.5 times more likely. And so we really need to really understand this condition and all the things that can cause it. And like I mentioned earlier, vascular dementia is one of the big things, and also can be mixed dementia, leads to Alzheimer's disease. But vascular dementia is really big in the African American community because, like we said, it stems from vascular disease. And who's at risk for vascular disease? Vascular disease is the cardiovascular disease, strokes, diabetes. So any disruption in your vessels in your body, if you look at that. And African Americans are at risk for that because the way we eat, or we just predisposed to this because family history. And so that's where that will lead to vascular dementia. And some people say it's just multiple strokes can lead up to that because there's no oxygen getting to the brain. And then to tie in back to your vision, we want y'all to understand each part of your brain is responsible for a function. And so it depends on what part of that brain is affected at that time. That's what you'll see. And as it relates to the vision, if back here is where that is being affected, then they'll start having hallucinations or start decreasing their visual field. So right now I can see Karen right here. But for someone where the dementia has set in the brain or the tangles, if it's Alzheimer's disease, has started happening back here, their peripheral vision starts to narrow. And so this is why your dad, who you don't want to take keys from, is having accidents every month because this is his vision right here. So he's jumping over and he can't see Karen. So I just want to kind of share with that and make it reality. I hope I didn't take you somewhere else.
No. Actually, vascular dementia is a real serious problem. Strokes happen, people are in need, and I would like maybe one day that you could maybe bring in some type of an instrument where people in our audience can actually put something on.
Simulation.
Oh, y'all have that simulation?
So we actually,
Okay.
we've done working with Jackie for the Dementia Faith Village project. So our goal is to change the culture of churches. So we go out and we have community forums at churches in the Atlanta metro area. And we have a simulated dementia experience that's more culturally appropriate. They had this virtual dementia experience, but we've made it more culturally appropriate for the African American community, where we simulate for our attendees at these conferences, at the forums, to actually go through this so they can actually see. And it has been an eye-opener. We have testimony on our Faith Village Facebook page where we have participants immediately afterwards telling you how they will see their mom with new eyes. You know, because now they was able to go through it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I was just going to add to all of this by saying, you know, with the vascular diseases, but the environment in which African Americans live in. The city, the American Lung Association just gave the city of Chicago an F for air quality.
Wow.
And as you know, think about that, an F. I mean, you can't get any worse than that, right? And so the communities in which we live, what do we have? Trucks and rail going through, you know, our neighborhoods, emitting God knows what. And so we don't know what kind of environmental conditions that we're living in that could be contributing to what we're suffering from.
Yes, and there is some research about that. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, please tell us about that. And because I have a feeling that it also alters personality. Is that what we call frontotemporal dementia? Is that?
That is one of them that can really
Okay.
focus with the personality or cause social
Yes.
symptoms where they might have more
Outbursts.
behavior
Yep.
symptoms that would exhibit. And
So
just,
the filter's gone.
yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, like I'm thinking this thing about you, Paul, but I wouldn't say it.
Okay.
Because it's all there and
Yeah.
the connectivity is there. But when the filter's gone, you know, they just blurt out.
comes
People
out.
who never use profanity start using profanity. They don't have the filter anymore.
Wow.
So now y'all know why your mom all of a sudden she's cursing from sun up to
Sundown.
sundown.
Yeah.
And she never
Exactly.
did this anymore. She
Exactly.
was that perfect church lady.
Church
She was the
lady.
mother of the church.
Right,
Right.
And now you can understand this is what's happening.
Right.
And that's what it's all about, is really understanding. And if you're able to understand what is going on with the condition or the disorder, then in return as a caregiver and a family member,
Yes.
you could be more loving.
Yeah.
And you would be less stressed.
Exactly.
Because now you're like, I already
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
She really doesn't mean it.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the condition that she
And that
has.
is critical
Critical.
as a caregiver to understand this disease, because I know there's statistics about
Yeah.
the caregiver
Absolutely.
dying,
Leaving before.
Yes.
dying before
Person.
the
Yes.
person that you're caring for. So
Often.
imagine that stress. I've got a younger sister that I have to pull off the ledge every now and then because she's the primary caregiver for our mom, and it's more than a notion, and the accelerating notion of this disease is unbelievable.
Yes.
And so I think there's a need for a firm understanding of that, because a week from now can be just,
Yeah.
you could be talking about someone that can no longer stay in their own home, and that's where we are right now. We're in that place where we're on pins and needles because we're going to have to make some real tough decisions, because now she's in a home by herself. So imagine two people with dementia, at different stages, and now we've got one who's accelerating mightily, and daycare is just not enough. A person coming in once or twice a week is not enough. So major decisions to be made.
Well,
Yeah,
we have in the audience some individuals that might have some questions, and I was talking to one named Sherry. Maybe she might want to step to the mic and tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
some of what you're going through. Sherry, could you come to the
Yeah.
mic? I understand she's working on her doctorate as well.
No, have it.
She has
Ooh.
it.
Okay.
You have it?
Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
well, we want to announce to the world that you have your doctorate, and next time I'll make sure that there's a seat up here for you. I didn't know she had. Would you like to share some of your experience? And I think you were talking about the cookbook.
Okay. I've been with my mom. It'll be 8 years in September, and I knew from the time I was about 24 that I was probably going to be the one. I looked at my siblings and their lives, and I looked at my life, and I said, okay, I'll probably be the one. So at 24 years old, I was thinking, okay, when she gets older, when my parents get older, I'll see it coming, and I'll just rise into this role. Well, no, it didn't work out that way. I became my mother's caregiver when a routine doctor's appointment, the doctor said, okay, she has dementia, she can't live by herself anymore. And I was like, well, okay, all right. He said, well, no, that means you have to move in there. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, so these changes can happen very rapidly. And my brother was living there, and he was going, well, no, you're the one. So that totally changed where my life was at that time. But it's been an interesting journey, because at the time she was diagnosed, she wasn't staged. So I had no idea what I was going to experience. And I said, well, okay, we'll just go with how this works, because when I went online to the Alzheimer's Foundation and I was looking at the different stages, and they were like this big with all these different things that could be happening and losses, and I'm going, I don't know. So I said, well, you know what? I can't think about that. That's too much. Let me just see where those losses are, and we will work in accordance to what's going on. Because with dementia, particularly dementia of the Alzheimer's type, everybody doesn't get everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the degree to which symptoms affect someone are entirely different.
Yes.
So I think we've heard the line from Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. I think that line describes Alzheimer's disease the best, because you just don't know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
And so you have to be open to whatever it is that happens, and being able to be flexible and understanding that you're just going to have to go with this.
Dr. Sherry, did the cooking help with, I mean, did your loved one help you with cooking, and what did you do? Because did you sit out the utensils for them, and I mean, tell
I
us.
laugh because I don't know whether it was dementia or whether it was just my mom at that point of, okay, I've been doing this for 50 years, I'm not doing it anymore. Because she quickly adjusted to the fact that I was there, I was cooking, and she wasn't. So I don't know which way that went. And so I look at this and I kind of laugh, and it's like, well, okay. My journey is one where I laugh a lot, and I have to laugh a lot because I have to make the best out of this. And so when she makes up her mind that she's going to do something or she's not going to do something, the other day she decided she didn't want her teeth, and I said, okay, well, but you need them to eat. And she said, well, I don't like it. Okay, well, all right, well, we'll just come back to this in a few minutes. So the cooking came about because I do believe that nutrition I believe in nutrition. And I believe that the more broadly you eat, the more nutrition, the more nutrients you can get into your body from different sources, and you don't get bored. So
Thank you.
that's
Thank
our
you.
world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Give her a
you.
big hand. Yes, Dr. Karen, you've heard.
Dr. Karen.
Dr. Karen, 3 more years.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to mention when we talk about nutrition, our center actually created a thing called the Mind Diet, and it's looking at foods that you eat, and maybe that can actually help to delay the onset or prevent you from developing Alzheimer's. So Dr. Martha Claire Morris created this Mind Diet. It's a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. And if you strictly adhere to it, you can reduce your chances of developing Alzheimer's disease by 53%. And if you sort of adhere to it, you can reduce your chances by 35%. So it's online, it's everywhere. It's like one of the top diets in the country. And Martha Claire just created a cookbook that looks at creating Mind Diet meals.
Interesting. You know, Dick Gregory worked with me years ago on my weight, and he took me off of pork,
Yep.
and, you know, all that, you know, stuff that we like eating, you know, pig feet, you know, chitlins,
Yeah.
you know, and meat.
Yeah. So Martha Claire says there are 5 things that you definitely should not be eating, or reducing your intake of it. So she says red meat, processed foods, sugar, butter limited to like 1 pound a day, and cheese to 1 ounce a day. So
We in trouble.
and by eating foods that are closer to the ground, more green leafy vegetables, more beans, using olive oil, things like that, it's going to make it's going to help your brain not to be devastated as much with Alzheimer's.
Wow, wow. Thank you. That's good information. We have an opportunity for another question from the audience. So just step right on up to the mic, and we will hear your question. I think that one of the big questions, and maybe Melvin, you might want to deal with this, or Dr. Epps, the aspect of people having struggles with bathing.
Yeah, that happens a lot. So you probably can tell some personal
Boy.
strategies and approaches you did.
Yeah, you just, the normal, I think you alluded to it earlier about the normal daily functions aren't normal anymore, and something shuts off in terms of doing that. And so you have to create situations where it's favorable actually getting in the water and being submerged. It's a whole different aspect. It's almost dealing with someone that has regressed mentally, and that you now are caring for someone that doesn't have the capacity anymore to understand that you need to bathe on a regular basis and do these kind of things. And again, it's an education that you need to have, because this is someone that raised you for the last 30, 40 years, and now all of a sudden the roles have reversed. And so, yeah, it's definitely a daily struggle.
So did you give options? So it's like when I talk to families, I talk about there's certain, you got to pick your battles.
Yes.
First of all.
No doubt.
So
No doubt.
have to, so for anybody, because this is a common issue with a lot of families, how often, I mean, I know we might bathe every day, but for your parent or your spouse, you need to really see, what is that day? Is it once a week, or is it every other day? So you need to understand that so you can pick your battles.
Yeah.
And if you choose 1 week to submerge in the shower or water, you don't really make it an option. You have to almost, there's different approaches. There's not a right or wrong, but you can start talking about it early on. Oh yeah, after lunch, after dinner, we got to go take a shower, or we got to go do this. And you just talk about it, and you lead them there. And a lot of people with choices, we don't want to take their choices away, but we might want to redirect their choices. So that, for example, their choice can be what pair of pajamas you want to put on. It's not, do you want to take a bath today or tomorrow? No, we're taking a bath, but what pair of pajamas or shoes or and so you can give them a cue to take a bath, and then just give them a choice of what so that's just an example, and I don't know if we have some other examples.
I can tell you, the taking her ability to drive and taking her car.
That's another issue.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
I've been the villain of that for the last 6 months. And I'm always reminded now. She doesn't remember much, but she remembers who took her car.
Who took the car?
And are you driving it?
Yeah, I'm driving it. And I'm taking her to the store and all those kind of things. But there's some tough decisions that you have to make for their safety, and so we actually.
But they're grown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
They're grown.
That's
So you have to respect that.
Yeah.
So you have to respect. You have to respect that,
Yes.
because they are your parents, or they're their significant others.
It's
so
their car.
so
Absolutely.
It's their keys.
Yeah,
So you need to
absolutely.
respectfully do things. And there is, and a lot of us don't like to lie. I'm not going to lie to daddy, blah, blah, blah. But there are certain things you kind of got to reword the things and purposely maybe break a car. Call your friend that works on cars and say,
just take the battery out.
take the battery out. Or,
It won't fire up.
so you got to be creative, I should say.
Absolutely.
Let me share 2 resources.
Okay, and
So
then
the
we have a
bathing,
question.
you
Okay,
want
go
to
ahead.
look up bathing without a battle. And there are videos that will teach you how to actually bathe a person when they're combative, and it totally transforms their experience. And there are cues that they teach that are just really fantastic. And so you can overcome that. There's an organization called Safe Solutions, and I think they are national. And they are in court, they collaborate with like AARP, and the whole, having a person to go through driving with a person that is not their adult child is a much better adversary. They won't see them as an adversary. They're going to see you as an adversary, but they're going to look at them and they're going to listen to them with a different ear. So try some of those solutions.
Sounds good. Question from our audience.
Yes, I wanted to, after listening about when air oxygen shuts off and you have these symptoms, are there any things that we can share to eat with the individual or ourselves, or things we can do, exercise, anything that can increase gaining more oxygen so that it can combat any other things that may have occurred?
So if it is vascular dementia, we do recommend that you continue to treat those vascular disorders,
Correct.
so it does not worsen.
Right.
So if it is diabetes or if you're on hypertension medication,
Mm-hmm.
you don't. Those are the things you want to continue to take, so it does not worsen.
We're also looking at exercise. So one of the things, I think that the reason my father-in-law, who's been living with Alzheimer's for about 10 years now, the reason he's still alive and still moving around, still doing all the things that he's doing, is because he walked so much. He walked like 3 or 4 miles, maybe more than that a day. So exercise really makes a difference. We think it actually, we're doing some studies looking at exercise and how it may delay the onset of symptoms. So exercise is really, really good. And one of the best forms of exercise is walking. And for people who have painful joints, water aerobics is really, really good. Helps to get the oxygen to your heart, to your brain. Anything that's good for your heart is
Yes,
good for your brain.
That's my
Yeah.
say.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes.
Pastor Jakes, there's so many different aspects, and the spectrum is incredibly wide. We spearheaded the renovation of our Woodson Library. Does everybody know where the Woodson Library is on the far south side?
95th,
On 95th
right.
and Halstead. During the renovation, we had an idea because we saw the rampant nature of Alzheimer's and dementia in our community, and we partnered with the city to make Woodson the city's first dementia-friendly library.
That's
So
fantastic.
there are resources there right now that will answer nutrition questions, exercise, what stage, and we're going to be doing a town hall meeting June 30th, Saturday, June 30th, from 10 a.m. to 1, and it's going to be a community-led discussion, very much like this, to get your questions answered, and just to position Woodson as a resource for all of this information, because that's what's really crippling us in terms of awareness, lack of knowledge, and health literacy.
The second question to back that up is, what can the African American church do in order to help with this issue? I know we've got some pastors out in the audience, but please.
As a deacon, Pastor Moss speaks from the pulpit on a weekly basis, and he includes that population because we have so many caregivers within the congregation that are going through this, and that it shouldn't be kept a secret because secrets will kill us. And so it is important that is spoken from, and hopefully that from that places or spaces within church will be respite, spots for people who are just dog tired from it. Because I will say, it takes more than one caregiver to care for a person. You need a team.
We've got 1 minute left.
Yep.
We've got
Sorry.
a pastor at the mic, Reverend M.L. Jakes. What can the church do?
Well, one of the things that the church can do is provide an awareness and provide an atmosphere for those who are suffering with dementia. One of the things I do know is that one's relationship with God and certain songs that they can go back to, that it will spark. Now, we have these new praise and worship songs, but if you can go back to Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior, or What a Friend We Have in Jesus, they'll say, I can participate in that. And so that's one of the things that we are looking to do as a dementia-friendly church.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I think we're getting ready to take a commercial break, and then we will go forth with a few more questions, but thank you so much for listening in. And this is the church in action, because we are loving on our people. Come on, let's give our panel a big hand, and we will be with you in just a minute with more Love in Action. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.